Directors meeting.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? I have one. Hannah's last name is spelt wrong. In the, I don't know what number it is, 5.2 Assistant Superintendent Report. Her last name is spelled Dieterich. Any others? All those in favor with the correction? Okay. Go passes. And now we'll enter into public comment. Please make sure you address your name, your town that you are from. Please keep it respectful, and let's not talk about any students' names or teachers. Anybody here? Anybody online? Okay. So we'll move to number 4, petitions and communications.
It's interesting that all the staff sits in the back.
That's what I just.
All year long, they're telling the students to move up front.
Any petitions or communications? No. And number 5, we'll go down to reports, our superintendent's report.
Yes, so you see that the superintendent's report is in the packet, and the first bullet focused on our early release Wednesdays and how our work has been supporting the development of goals for the year as part of the evaluation systems. School-wide goals have been discussed about raising student achievement, improving climate and culture. They've also been preparing for the NWEA assessments, which I know Kathy's going to talk about in her report. And then we have, and then we told about the assessment coming up starting October 3rd for the state for grades 3 through 6, and pre-K and 2 have been taking the assessment. I discussed that Kathy and I have been meeting with principals and assistant principals, discussed their goals for their evaluation process and their action steps towards their goals for the first semester, and what they are going through, their modeling for their staff to help them with and supporting them in their work as we use eye observation for our evaluation system. Then the third bullet is about water testing has begun. And as you saw, Carrie Ricker was the first school to be tested. We had 13 water fixtures out of 76 fixtures tested. That did come back with a level of lead, and most of them, if you notice, were in the locker room area. And John has been working to remedy the results. He's going to talk about that during his report. Then we talked about going to Libby Tozier last week, well, the week before, around looking at the nest and all the things that are going on positive in the classrooms to support relationships, responsibility, and regulation. And noting that teachers are important and all staff are important, and I noted that the custodian was very active in knowing students' names and reinforcing those relationships, which was great to see. And so it was fun being in the buildings. Tomorrow we head to Sabatis Primary to do the similar activity and hold our meetings in schools so that we can see each other's buildings. And then had fun with Spirit Week at Oak Hill High School last week. Lots of fun, lots of positive energy. Being in the pep rally, and Kathy and I had fun judging things and being part of a cheer. So it was great to be a raider. And one of the big themes that for that week was 3 towns, 1 dream. And so it was nice to see that in the T-shirts and in the different skits and cheers. And then we talked about that, stopped by going to games during the week and seeing all the teams competing. Had fun on Saturday. Boy, huge turnout. I know some of you, I saw you didn't see, but saw each other as everybody celebrated being a Raider. Big community turnout for Saturday. So it was very impressive. And that's the report. And then part of the report, too, I guess, is the appointments, which I didn't do last time. But we do have Ashley Getchell joining us from Accounts Payable Specialist. She's been with us for a few weeks. And then Elaine Landry started this week as our new payroll specialist. So we're back whole at central office, which has been very helpful. Yeah.
Superintendent's
Not
report,
doing-
it says no report.
Okay, no report, but you, because you did CIA, we went over. Okay, so she shared with the CIA, which will report out about the NWAs. Thank you.
Then the financial report.
I'll make a report under committee report.
Okay.
Yep.
Administrative reports will be next, the 12th of October. And now we'll move on to your director's reports. Norma Jean for technology. I didn't put it this way. It was this way.
Right.
I inherited this agenda.
Longer range, so we can like,
Right.
let's see. Come on. Hold on. We're there. Otherwise Kathy's gonna slide over and click. Jordan, what did you do to it? All right, Kathy, you're clicking.
Yep, see, you're first.
All right, so, good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name is Regina Audette, Technology Director to our big crowd here. Okay, so just a technology report just to update you. So just to remind everybody that we've kind of changed whether we had Chromebooks or iPads at different levels for this year. So this year we added iPads to grade 3 and 4, which makes us iPads pre-K through 8, which is great. Keeps it consistent, programming consistent. And then we changed to the Chromebook 912. And something to keep in mind are iPads that are grades 3, actually 5 through 8 have keyboards on them. And I think 3-4 does too. Has keyboards on it this year through MLTI. So that's actually good. All right, next, I had to share, and I had to make fun of Marco because this was a riot. Because so kids love green screen, so we do green screen. What are you pointing at? Oh, sorry. So we do, I was just trying to celebrate, see. So we do green screens quite a bit with the kids. They love it. And so we found out that it's just as fun with staff. And they spend just as much time on what background they want to. And so this was one of the, first of workshop day activity at the high school. And I couldn't resist it. It looked like Marco should have had a halo over his head. And so our data specialist put one over his head on the slide. So it looks like Sam is trying to take it from him, which is great. So I mean, you can just tell everybody's in a great mood for the beginning of the year. So that was actually, I couldn't resist. Sorry, Marco. And then, no worries. All right, and this is kind of small, but I can share this whole thing with you and any other information you want. Bob kind of mentioned last time we met a little bit about Power School and why we changed and everything. So I thought I would just kind of give you a big picture of where we're headed, and Kathy may report out as well as part of her thing. I heard her talking about Power School maybe earlier in your meeting about why we shifted from STAR and that type of stuff, but maybe. Yeah. Oh, it was the highlight. Okay, so we changed from Infinite Campus to Power School for this school year. We started implementing last year, kind of like testing it out, getting our site set up. It's a pretty powerful program. We're not going to get to the point where we can do some of the fun stuff, probably for another year. Right now, we're building a solid foundation. So we have Power School for SIS. We'll be opening up the student and parent portal beginning next week, starting at the high school. And really important is we have Swift K-12 for our emergency messenger. And it likes to take all the contacts, so it's pulling like everybody. Their
We've
work.
gotten a lot of use out of that.
Yes, and we've used it quite a bit. And so, yeah. So no, don't do that. So once the parents get on there, they can actually say, "I want to be called on my cell phone. I want to be called on my home phone. I want to add this different number." And so that's really good. And then the grade book is linked in there as well. And unlike Jump Rope, which was kind of cumbersome, the parents had to have a separate account for every child. Horrible. Not the case with this. So that was one of the good reasons for going from Power School to have the integrated grade book. Power School isn't meant for standards. It's not built that way. It to be, just standards, not have numbers or whatever. We've done a really good job cooking it to get it to work for us with the help of Sam and teachers and troubleshooting. It's been amazing and some great tip sheets. So we're doing great there. So parents will see that. And so as part of Power School, we also purchased PD Plus, which is online PD for teachers. teachers. They can do online courses. That's a huge plus. E-collect, so we can actually do those facility use forms eventually. Other forms that we need to send for parents for field trips, they can come back electronically to us, save some paper. We're doing Enrollment Express so that as we have new students come in through the school year, they can actually enroll online instead of paper. That would be great. We have document delivery, which is like DocuSign. So if we need to send something out for special ed and have somebody sign it, send us back, another huge thing tied in there. We have the Power Pack, which lets us do Power School doesn't have something for lockers, so it helps us give lockers, stuff for special ed, and a bunch of other features that were like packaged in there that we may not use now, but we may use later, which is great. So we have the Swift K-12, which is our emergency messenger. We have the Power Teacher Pro, which is our grade book. It's really nice to be able to have that grade book tied right into Power School, so it builds everything back and forth. And then once those two are going, we're going to be shifting into Performance Matters, hopefully right after the NUIA window is over, so we can focus, get that data into there. And the big push for that is to have everything in one place, what they call is the baseball card. So the NUIA data will pull in. Eventually we can do local assessments, and we brought in last year's data from STAR and NUIA. It's already in there. And so instead of having teachers spend their time data entering, they can use that time to analyze the data and form instruction around it. So another big piece that's tied into Power School is we went with Mosaic for our point of sale. Our point of sale last year was tied into Infinite Campus. So that's new and it's much more powerful, has some great features compared to what we have with Infinite Campus. And so it ties into My School Apps, which is another service for doing online free and reduced applications. And then My School Bucks, which is the payment processing, and we're still using NutriCrowd, which is through the state. So we're listed on the state site for online applications too. We'll get them any way they want to give them to us, which is great. All right, I think that's it for me. Who's next? Any questions for me? Yes.
Gene, I had a couple questions about the emails and stuff that were going on about the busing thing.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question to ask, well, why couldn't we have had all that set up? Because I said that we were going to a new, and I said, well, it's just, my explanation was, I just want to make sure I'm right, was that the amount of data that we have to input, and we don't really know who our students are until we have them.
Mm-hmm.
So in getting that, the laptops out and all that. So,
Yep.
am I right?
You are right. And then one of the recommendations for Power School, because the information comes out of Infinite Campus, Infinite Campus did a huge data dump for us. And Power School was like, do not bring in your contacts because you'll spend the entire year cleaning.
Right.
And so we spent a lot of time either bringing in Contact One. Jordan was a huge help at parsing that in. We've been doing a lot of data entry. And so I think as soon as the parents get in, we can clean up that a lot more. But their recommendation was don't do it. And school said it too. Don't do it. If you try to bring it in, you're going to spend the whole year
And I
cleaning.
just want to make
Yep.
sure I explained it right. That's
Yep,
all.
you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Jonathan, you're up.
All right. So I've got quite a lot to report on, as you can imagine, over the summer between water testing, transportation, school safety, projects, lots to cover. I want to hit the highlights, though. So I'm going to start with the Deergo Safety Assessment update, and I want to start by passing around. This is an example of an emergency procedure flip book that Spruce Mountain has. It was in my office. I actually found it, and it's a shining example of what I'd like to see in the schools, to be with every teacher and to be with every secretary and building admin, as well as in here. And basically what it, and I'll pass it around for you guys all to look at, but basically it has a, either flood, fire, building evacuations, active shooter. So basically an emergency that has happened. All you do is you flip right to it, and it gives you a very brief, quick 1, 2, 3, 4 step in what you need to do during that emergency. If we have a thick book of millions of pages to flip through trying to figure out in an emergency, that's hard enough for someone who's in either prior military experience or police to process, let alone someone who doesn't have that experience. We want to make it as simple as possible. So I would like to see a book like this made for RSU4. I wanted to pass it around and get your thoughts. So I'll start it over here. And that's something that I've talked with Deergo Safety about helping us build. I think it can look exactly like that, but just making sure it falls in line with our policies. Okay. So we had site evaluations over the summer with Dirigo Safety. They were quite thorough. It took me 2.5 days to go walk through all the buildings. And then we eventually got an assessment back. Unfortunately, that assessment was not to Dirigo safety standards. That was not to RSU4 standards. So it didn't come back the way we wanted to see it. It wasn't thorough enough. It didn't give us enough information that we were looking for. The owner of the company reached out to me and said, I am so sorry. This is not a representation of our product, our company. Set it all aside. We're going to come back and do this the right way, and we're going to make it right for you. So that's unfortunate, but the good news now is that we have Megan, our SRO, and heavily involved, who should be heavily involved in an assessment such as that. So she's going to go around starting Friday at the middle school, Amy, and going to start doing those assessments with the owner himself, and he's going to provide us with a much more thorough assessment. And this will be better, too, because we have kids in the building, which gives them a much accurate representation of what day-to-day looks like with busing, things like that. So then the end goal is to get a training program put together for emergency response. So Dirigo Safety, initially we thought, let's have Megan and the chief of police and things like that run our staff through an emergency procedure. But in reality, they're part of that process, right? Like they can't be training it or running it because they're going to be involved in a real world situation. So Dirigo Safety is going to actually provide the training for us and involve Megan, Sabatis PD, fire, whoever else needs to be involved so we can get the most accurate, best training possible. Also to get a flip chart like that put together and have that be, and my goal anyways would be to have it into every classroom and every building. But then again, that's something that we can discuss further with the safety committee. And then also to have our emergency plans updated to 2022 standards, right? So we want to make sure that we're reassessing, at least have my eyes on it every year, but like every 3 years, really reassessing because a lot can happen in a couple of years regarding school safety. All right, so I have some district propane project updates, and I have some pictures that I'm hoping I can share with you if I can work this. All right, so this is over at Libby Tozier and Kerry Ricker. So I'll start from picture on the left and work my way right. So on the left, that is where the old boiler at Libby Tozier used to sit, the one that was cracked and had to be replaced. So they ripped the old one out. That right there is the boiler stand in the primary loop, which will actually help with energy efficiency the way that it's piped that way. The boilers are being hung. They were either hung today or they're going to be hung tomorrow. A lot of inside piping's been done. If you see the next picture to the right, that's the water heater that replaced the old oversized cement-lined water heater. Those cement-lined water heaters are subject to inspection every year, and they're a pain in the butt to deal with. They're also extremely inefficient. So this is 119 gallon. It's not subject to state inspection. It's much more efficient. It'll provide endless hot water for the school, but also not chew through fuel to make it hot for us all year. Top right is the pad where the pad's going to be poured. That pad is set to be finished poured tomorrow. They already have one propane tank on site, just staged there. They're going to have two sitting there. It'll pipe to the building and then be finished up from there. And then bottom right, where the guy's working on the Kerry Ricker pad. So at Kerry Ricker, the only plan is to have the pad poured. The underground piping outside has already been done. They're going to put up a fence, which all the pads will have fences around the tanks anyways, but at least this year, for safety reasons, there'll be a fence up. And then the bollards, the concrete bollards, the vehicle protection will be put up. And then that's all we're doing for Kerry Ricker this year. There was talk of trying to get it done, but I was under the gun to get a fuel contract for the district put together, and I couldn't rely on maybe yes or no. So I just said, let's push it to the spring. But everything else will be done and up and running by mid-October. So we're getting close. This is over at the middle school. So you can see there the blue cabinet-looking thing is the new gas burner. The piping on the side you can see is the gas train. So everything inside has been finished. And there's just outside piping that needs to be complete and the excavation groundwork for the new tank farm to go in. And you can kind of see it in the back picture. There's a big water heater there. That still runs on oil, and we have it piped so in the future it could run on gas. But the reason why we kept it oil was, number one, it's a brand new water heater. Didn't really want to spend extra money just because. And number two, we have an underground oil tank, both here in the high school. And if we eliminate the need for the oil in the underground oil tank, we have to rip it out. That's really, really expensive. So for right now, while we have a brand new water heater that's relatively efficient for what it is, we just kept it with the oil so we didn't have to run into that expense.
We've already bought the oil.
Yeah, we already have the oil. I mean, we're talking 5,000 gallons a year, maybe. I mean, the consumption's going to be very minimal in comparison to what it was before. Up here at the high school, I didn't have any pictures of the boiler work, but at the high school, just to give you guys a little update, they've done some of the interior piping. The burners are still coming in. They haven't gotten them yet. Some outside excavation work will commence in the coming weeks. We're going to time it as best we can because it will be somewhat disruptive to vehicle traffic because we have to go across a paved road in order to lay the gas line. So the excavation company, the gas company, is very adamant about doing this like over a weekend. Start Friday evening, do it over a weekend, have it be drivable by Monday. And we're going to work around football. We're going to work around, they already asked when's homecoming. I said, we've already gotten through homecoming. We're going to work around sports, work around football. We're going to make it happen. But again, everything's supposed to be up and operational by mid-October is what the plan is, if not sooner. So some other projects at the high school. On the left, you can see the HRV, the heat recovery unit. That is supplying or cycling air in the gymnasium at the high school and the boys and girls locker room. So, what it does basically is it cycles air through so we can have clean air in the building, in that part of the building anyways. But what it'll also do is if air temperature is at roughly 50, 55 degrees or higher, it will take the heat out of the air and exhaust it out to help cool the building. And then when it's 50, 55 or cooler, it will pull heat out of the air and use it to warm up the space too. So it's cycling air, it's helping with clean air, but it's also helping with energy efficiency, keeping the building cool and warming it up when it needs to by using the heat that's already in the air. And then on the right, you can see that is the new floor at the kitchen in the high school. I wish I had a before picture. It was not so pretty. I think it was, I don't know if it was original or it was very close to original. It failed inspection from the state, and basically the reason being was partly cleanliness, but also it has to be one consistent floor. It can't be layered or separated and put together for cleaning purposes. So basically this is like a speckled flake top with an epoxy resin finish over the top of it, so it'll make cleaning a lot easier. It'll ultimately look better, and we chose Oak Hill colors. It's kind of hard to see, but it's a blue, white, red finish. If you ever get to go look at it, it really, really pops, and it really dresses the kitchen up nicely.
John,
Yeah.
I heard in the kitchen that only one of the floor drains is working.
Yeah, one of them was filled with cement. Not sure why. Not sure when. But yeah, there's only one actively working floor drain. So I don't know how invasive it is to drill out the cement in that floor drain.
Don't want to mess up the new floor.
I certainly don't want to try and mess up the new floor. No. But yeah, I don't really know why that was done. I'm finding a few of those things here and there, but yeah. So let's see what else. I don't have any pictures. I'm so sorry. We did get a new freezer fixed or installed, I should say, at Sabattis Primary School. So that freezer had failed over the summer. There was talk about either basically putting a Band-Aid fix on it for a lot of money or for just a little bit more, basically giving it a whole new freezer. And so Finance Facilities Committee, we decided let's just do a whole new freezer. So that's the rooftop unit, all the lines, the evaporator inside. Basically, besides the physical box, they have a brand new freezer over there. And I'll tell you, in a couple of instances where the freezer goes down, we lose all that food, a couple of bad weekends will pay for this project, right? So this is a huge win for Sabattis Primary in their kitchen. And then coupled with that, we have the new steamer over there, which failed during an electrical shortage a few months back. So that was like 99% covered by insurance, which is great. We just had to pay a little bit of labor to get it in there. I'm just waiting for them to come back and do a test fire up, and then they'll have the access to the steamer. So that's awesome. Lead in schools water testing. So we touched on it a little bit. I know I talked to you in previous reports that we had to wait until September to start testing. We did start in September. So on the 9th and the 13th, Chuck from Water Quality came in and tested 73 fixtures. Some might say overkill, but in my eyes, anything that someone could potentially drink should be tested. So that's including outside silcocks, kids filling up water bottles for sports games. That includes, utility sinks in an art room. You could fill it up for your coffee. I wanted to test everything. So we tested everything. 13 fixtures did come back with trace amounts of lead over 4 parts per billion, which is the acceptable limit. Anything over 15 parts needs to be completely shut off per CDC main drinking water requirements. If it's something, though, that is not meant for drinking, a fixture not meant for drinking, it doesn't necessarily have to be shut off if it's not conducive to every day, right? So we did have one fixture in the kitchen that tested, I'd have to look at the numbers, just barely over that threshold. So main CDC drinking water safety program says flush it for 30 seconds, let it run cool for 30 seconds, then use it. And what it's used for is basically to quickly hit the dishes, and then it goes in the dishwasher, which runs at over 140 degrees, which kills any and every bacteria on the dish. That's the sprayer, and then the one that, that's the fixture, right, correct, the sprayer. So not ever meant for drinking. So we do not have that fixture shut down, but we did have a plumber come in. I think it was the next day I got the plumber to come in. Again, most of the fixtures are in the locker rooms, which aren't being utilized and in theory not being drinking out of. So, those were all shut off. A couple of fountains in rooms that were shut off. And at that point, Chuck's going to come back. He's going to take more samples. And this time, instead of taking it as soon as he turns the water on, he's going to let it run for 30 seconds and then test it again. And that will determine whether or not the fixture has the lead in it or pipes down the line have the lead in it. So we're going to continue to do water testing throughout the district. I'm waiting to hear back some schedule dates. As you can imagine, he's quite inundated with everyone else that needs these water tests done. But I've certainly given him a push where it's a school district and we have kids, and he understands that. So the next one will be Libby Tozier, and then we'll move into the other schools to try and get those done as quickly as possible, and I'll report on those as soon as I have any findings. And then, all right, so moving on to transportation. Maybe.
You're on a roll.
Could you help? Transportation. One more. Thank you. Okay, so transportation. We've actually, I'm going to start over. We've had a really good start, I think, actually, to the year, all things considered. We have 9 bus drivers for a district of 1,300 students. That's a big ask from our bus drivers, and everyone's not perfect. People get sick. People have emergencies at home, last-minute things. So they have been outstanding, I think, given the challenge that they're faced with, right? So we've done the best that we can with the people that we have. I'm going to actually go to the very bottom and do an appreciation shout-out to a gentleman, Phil Norman. He's a Litchfield resident who is here until middle of October. He goes down to Florida and actually helps out busing in Florida all winter, and then comes back in the summer. He'll be back in April. I called him with 10 minutes, 20 minutes of notice, and he came right over to the bus garage, hopped on a bus, made it happen for us. He's doing a field trip for like 12 hours tomorrow. He did bus runs while we had one of our drivers out for a whole week. He did a bus run, doesn't know the roads that well. He's not from the area. He lives in the area, but not from the area. Doesn't know the roads that well, doesn't know where the stops are. Did a phenomenal job. He didn't really want me to do a shout out tonight, but I think people should know he's done a phenomenal job for us. I'm so happy he's on board, and he's always willing to help. So I just wanted to make sure that people knew that. To help with some of our bus driver shortages, so I haven't been getting any applicants for bus drivers, which is unfortunate, but we're still putting the ads out, trying to get as many people and drum up the interest. So I've worked with Norton Staffing Group. They are local to the area. They say they have bus drivers in the Augusta Lewiston area who are willing to help. So the plan is to bring on some of those people through the staffing group to help out with sports and field trips, so we can get those students to their games and to their field trips. And then what my plan would be is to bring on, with the intention of bringing them on full time, is to have someone come with us for a couple weeks, ride with the head bus driver, learn the route. If I can pull the head bus driver off the road, she can get more of the day-to-day things done. And then, God forbid, we have a driver out. She knows every single run. We're not scrambling. So that's the plan, is to try and bring those people in. It's not something that can happen overnight, but it's something that I'm trying to get creative with getting more bus drivers in here. And then finally, we do have some scheduled bus evacuations that we have to do that are required of us. So 10-6 at the Oak Hill Middle School will be our first bus evacuation. That'll be for middle school, high school. So after their first pickup run, like as if they're going to go to the middle school and just be dropped off, they're going to run through their bus evacuation, and then proceed right into the school like a normal day. And then on the 11th, we'll do the same thing with Carrie Ricker, Libby Tozier, Sabatis Primary as well. And that is everything I have to report on. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Yeah, Jonathan, I've talked to a few other districts and bus drivers and stuff, and they're saying that it makes a big difference if you have a bus monitor on the bus.
Yeah, bus aid.
Bus
Yeah.
aid.
Mm-hmm.
So consequently, that drivers are going to districts that have bus aids, and they they stay.
Yep.
Because that is a big help to the driver if they don't have to watch what's going on behind them constantly.
Yeah. I wish we had a bus aid on every single bus. Megan, the SRO, has been generous and has been hopping on buses left and right. She hopped on a bus to help Phil out one day when we had a route to go, and she knew the roads in Sabatis. She helped out very well, but also can kind of keep an eye on the behaviors, and it's somewhat eye-opening to her. Not to think that she didn't think there was any bus behaviors, but when you see it firsthand, it kind of opens your eyes a little bit. So. We've discussed and thought about potentially bringing on maybe some ed techs looking for some hours, something like that, a creative way, maybe not like a completely separate position we hire from outside or whatever, but we find creative ways to bring some more people on the bus who can help watch the behavior issues so the bus driver can focus primarily on the road.
Because it's easier to be a bus aide than it is a bus driver, because you don't need a license, all you need is a background, and you ride the bus.
Yep.
So if somebody's looking for a part-time morning, afternoon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about some options that we could explore.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
I have just a question. So we're not the only ones that are dealing with the bus shortage. It's across the state. Is there any talk around our local legislators at the state having a conversation about this? Because I think it could benefit. I don't know, like as transportation directors, has there been any movement there at all? Do they realize what the problem is?
I'm not sure entirely. I mean, you've seen it on the news with like Lewiston in particular. I think they're aware of it. I don't know what they can do other than maybe incentivizing, creating incentive programs, or making it easier to become a bus driver. But I haven't heard any rumblings of any talks. I mean, I would be curious if I talked with Lisbon transportation director, see if he knows of anything. I've had phone calls from Lewiston asking for bus help. Needless to say, I did not have any bus help. And I could talk to some other local districts and see what they've heard. But I'd be more than happy to be part of something that could bring it to state legislature and see if we can fix a underlying problem.
Anyone else? Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
John?
Oh, yes. Thanks.
And next is Nancy Black.
It's always good for a laugh, me with the technology. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for giving me a few minutes to talk about RSU4 special education. I want to start by just reminding us all, last June we had a resignation of our speech therapist at Sabatis Primary, who was a big loss for us. We've tried hard to fill that over the summer. We were not able to do that. So thanks to Katie, and also speaking with the special education director in Augusta, we have embarked on a venture while we continue to post for that on-site speech therapist, we've embarked on an adventure with Seagull Speech Services, which is, oh, ba-doody. Yeah, okay, sorry. Which is a telehealth, and I know people, we'd love to sort of get away from that, including me. But this organization from Connecticut came very, very highly recommended. So we are contracting with 2 speech therapists. One of them lives on Peaks Island. The other one lives in, I think, the Virginia area. They're both top notch. I've said to everybody, if I could steal them away, either one of them away, I would hire them in a second. They're just so proactive with students. So here's a picture of one of our students doing speech therapy. So we have several kids, obviously, at Sabattis Primary who have speech therapy. They're not able to, at this point, these little guys are not able to get themselves to the speech room by themselves and log on and all that. So we've got a person that we've hired temporarily, hopefully longer, to help them with visuals, learn how to get onto the Zoom session. Things are going remarkably well. And I want to give a shout out certainly to Norma Jean, who, I go to her for everything under the sun around troubleshooting this. Kids are using their own iPads that they were issued. They're using a stylus to play games and to interact. They have headphones or earbuds. Annie Arnold at Sabattis Primary has been amazing as well, just trying to figure out locations, and because we've got some sessions going on at the same time, more than one. But so far, it's remarkable. I've been to several sessions. I plan to go to all of them. And kids they seem super engaged. I mean, you almost wouldn't know if you didn't see the screen and you're just looking at the student, you wouldn't know that they weren't with a person who's just sitting across from them. So it's been really good. Recently, the functional life skills at Oak Hill Middle, along with 7th grade STEM and another self-contained program at the middle school, went to Ricker Hill Orchards for a picnic and recess. They went to the Lake Auburn Municipal Beach, and I mean, they just had a blast. So, oops. Oh, there we go. Whoops, let's go back. So they had a lot of fun. It's always wonderful when you can have, students without IEPs and students with IEPs really just doing activities together. That's certainly the best case scenario. So in keeping with our nesting theme this year, a lot of classrooms and a lot of many gen ed classrooms as well through the years have used this or a version of this. It's called zones of regulation, but now it's really, people just call it zones. And it's a visual way for students to sort of check themselves as to what their emotional state is at any given point. It's popular everywhere, but we use it a lot. And most classrooms use it as a check-in. When kids come in the morning, they sort of mark themselves on whatever visual that classroom has been set up. But this was submitted by our 2 occupational therapists, Dana Toby and Katie Carroll, who have sort of taken that on. I think the nesting talks, I think, inspired them to do more than just occupational therapy, like fine motor, gross motor, but really do that check-in as well. So they wanted us to share that, which is a really great idea. Again, around inclusion, a shout out to Jan Twaddell, who has read to at least one class that I can think of, but she's reading a book called Strictly No Elephants, which is really about inclusion and acceptance, not just about students with disabilities, but students who are not accepted for all kinds of various reasons. So shout out to Jan on that one. Then our Carrie Ricker Resource Room, which focuses on reading and math. Kristen Archer, particularly, who is our mostly third grade resource room teacher, again, partnered with Jan at Carrie Ricker and decided to do a fall library theme within her own classroom. So with Jan's help, she got district books from the various schools around fall theme ideas. and concepts. And also, we're able to get books from all kinds of other districts in the surrounding area. And with Jan's help, they put QR codes, you can see that in front of those books, to go with the book so that students can use their iPad, take a picture of the QR code, and then they have the audio to go with the book. So it's been hugely successful. Yeah, it's been great. So along with the discussions that's led to about making connections to the book, it's always fun to, again, this is them. They had chocolate-covered apples with sprinkles as a celebration recently. Yeah, you know it. Good, whoops, good question. Whoops, I don't want to do that. And last but not least, I don't have pictures, and I wish I did, and I hope to in the future, but this is a really inspiring story. So this story starts last winter with, again, Karen Taylor, the functional life skills teacher at the middle school, being told by one of her students that, I think it might have been an 8th grader or 7th grader, that she would like to play kickball. So Karen took it upon herself to really embrace that with her entire class. They would go to the gym regularly. She had to start really from scratch, how to kick a ball, what it meant to run the bases, when to run bases, everything that goes with that. And she kind of thought that's where it sort of might end. But then they were able to, in May, collaborate with an 8th grade teacher who had some very willing 8th grade students who joined them for a big outside kickball game to form 2 teams. And Karen was the pitcher. I wish I had pictures of that. I've asked, but I don't have any. So, but it doesn't just end there. So that was a wonderful collaboration. But that was so inspiring to kids to learn how to be in a group sport activity that one of the students said she really wanted to join soccer at Oak Hill Middle. So, so it turns out she's a natural athlete and she's on the soccer team. So that was so inspiring that another student wanted to run cross country, and he's on the cross country team. So Karen is just over the moon. She's never had students be that motivated to participate in, in sports at school. And she's really hoping it will carry over into the fall sports. Yeah. So, awesome. And that's it. Any questions, comments? All right. Thank you.
Nancy. All right. Brian, you are up next.
Well, I wish I could say that was planned. That was a perfect segue to athletics. Good evening, everyone. Just kind of get started, I just want to give a shout out. If anyone is on social media and is interested in following, I've created some Oak Hill Athletics Facebook and Instagram pages. So if you're interested in sharing, following, whatever you want to do there, that would be fantastic. Where to start? I guess homecoming. Last week was homecoming. It was fantastic. All 7 of our sporting events tried to get a home game in due to some weather conditions that didn't necessarily happen. But as you can see, we kind of kicked off, kicked off on the top right. Field hockey parents went above and beyond, kind of decorating, took it upon themselves to kind of honor and celebrate homecoming within their own team. So that's just a small photo of a snippet of what field hockey kind of did. The rest of the photos there, you see some of our youth on Saturday. I invited all the rec programs to come down to the football game. It was quite a sight. It was awesome. You can see the smiles in the kids' eyes. Our rec cheerleaders did an actual halftime routine with the high school cheerleaders that they coordinated. And then we announced every program out onto the field. The top picture there was actually sent to me by a parent. They reached out to me a couple days ago and said, if you are wondering or questioning in any way what Saturday meant to my daughter, look at her smile, who's running through she's in the very front there, clapping everyone's hands as they went through a big tunnel. So that was a really unique opportunity just to kind of, celebrate homecoming, which is all about our community, fostering that and kind of getting our youth back into athletics, especially after the last couple of years. So homecoming was a pretty great week. Esports is not represented here. They just kind of got going in the last week or two. So they're just kind of getting into full swing. So I'm sure I'll have some more of that on my next report to kind of add. It's all right. Do you want to just click to the next one? Maybe? Oh, there we go. Perfect. So a new addition to this year to the RSU. It's an excellent resource, something that Jim Palmer actually kind of got the ball rolling, and I kind of solidified this fall is an athletic training contract through Maine General. We do have a full-time athletic trainer at the school now, DJ Rutherford. His kids actually go to the district, so he lives in the district. He's around. You'll see him at rec sports because his kids participate. So he's always around. He's present. I can't explain or elaborate enough how great this resource is. The best example I have, the first football game of the year, we had an athlete who went down 20 seconds into the game, had to leave the game. Within 12 hours, he had an MRI. And if any of you have tried to schedule an MRI recently, I think you would understand that that was, a pretty courageous task. So having him is awesome. He's in the building every day from about noon on to meet with our student athletes. And I say student athletes, any student, if someone has like a chronic situation that they're going to a doctor for, obviously he won't see them, but if someone were to roll their ankle at school or have something going on, he'll see him on top of the nurse, which is great support. He has a pretty wide array of abilities and solutions that he brings to us, from game coverage to injury rehabilitation, referrals, and even as recently, him and I are working to make a specific athletic emergency response plan. So this past weekend at the football game, we had an athlete from the other team who had to leave in an ambulance, and he kind of approached me after and was like, hey, we should put together a plan just so at least coaches and everyone on game day is on the same kind of brainwave. And I was like, that's a great idea. Let's make it happen. And he has some history with that. So him and I are going to be working together closely to put together an action plan specifically for athletic events and those situations, just to make sure that everyone kind of knows we're on the same page, same expectations, things like that. As far as his office, he has his own office in the back of the gym at the high school, and the contract is technically 6 through 12, so any middle school athlete can also go up there. He won't go to the middle school because his primary location is at the high school, but we actually had a middle school parent reach out to him today, and they were supposed to drop off their son or daughter to get treatment from him. Treatment goes anywhere from taping ankles to, as you can see, we've kind of been pieceworking together his office between boosters contributing, local funds and budgeted funds to kind of piece together. He's actually doing an ultrasound on an athlete's ankle right now. So anything from ultrasound to stem treatment to heat packs to ice to wraps. Like I said, I can't stress enough how awesome this is for our community, our athletes, and our school. So DJ is a great resource. If you ever see him around and want to say hi, sure he'd love to introduce himself. Lastly, and do this. There we go. Some big shout outs, big thank yous. If you notice on the left, it may be hard to see, some field hockey parents took it upon themselves to put some luscious eyelashes on the golf cart. If you look closely on the headlights there, you'll see them sticking out. Pretty fantastic. They have some pretty bold ideas. They told me that next week I might show up and there's going to be like a giant set of lips on the front. I think it's great. They're having fun. I get laughs when I show up to a game and, parents from other schools look at me and they see eyelashes bouncing on the front. And I'm like, hey, whatever. Like, we're having fun around here. It's not that big of a deal. Don't sweat the little things. The middle picture there, big thank you to Jeff Wright. He took it upon himself Saturday to not just spruce up the Stacey Doucette Memorial Garden, but he also did fall decorations throughout the entire football field. He brought in hay bales, corn stalks, pumpkins, all things that was donated from him, as well as Stephen's greenhouse in Monmouth. After the game, he then relocated all of them into the fishbowl at the high school. So the fishbowl at the high school is all fall and decorated and spruced up right now. And for those of you who don't know Jeff, he was a teacher here, taught for many years. He also helps volunteer every morning in the weight room, doing strength training with our athletes. He shows up at 5:35, 5:40-ish every morning to help just get those student athletes engaged in the weight room. So big shout out to him. Lastly, massive shout out to Kathy, Per, and John for transportation. As you guys know, transportation is an issue. You just heard that. They've been awesome resources to work with, getting me in contact with other districts. For example, 2 days ago, Lisbon actually picked up our cross-country team on the way to a meet. And they dropped them off after. So it just goes to show the collaboration we have with districts around us to kind of make it work, right? At the end of the day, we may be going against them, but, we're just another school trying to get our athletes to perform. So it's been a great resource. With that being said, Katie and I and John have kind of talked and come up with some potential new plans for transportation in the winter. I got reached out to by another AD in Southern Maine who, after COVID, they actually just created waivers to not provide transportation and have parents transport, which we kind of talked and we're like, well, we don't really want to go down that road, right? That's not kind of, the idea. So we're kind of in some conversation now just to see, like, in a worst case scenario, is that something we could look into? And I believe Katie said she spoke to our attorney about that a little bit.
So we talked, because we're trying to be proactive, because what we've heard from parents is this last minute changes is the most difficult. So talking to the attorney about these, permission slips, they don't carry a ton of weight to a degree. And so his advice was the more hands off, the better off, basically. So what we're talking about is try to get through the fall season as best we can. And then at the winter season, telling parents, here's the schedule where you need to get your children, your athletes to the competitions. If we have a bus, we will let you know so that it's right up front. You're going to be transporting to competitions, and then we will notify you if we have them. The problem is, if we don't do that, we're going to be doing what we've been doing this fall, which is we're not sure how we're going to get our athletes there, one. Then parents are suddenly, so you need me to leave work. If I had known ahead of time, can we do this? So that's what we're thinking of, just putting it out and see what the response is. Then parents can coordinate. We're not coordinating. Because I said, Brian, the minute we start coordinating, that gives me anxiety. But if parents know ahead of time, and they have team dinners anyway, they do things, they can organize how they're going to get athletes to and from the competitions. And the sooner we tell them and give them the schedule, the sooner planning can start. Because my fear is we're not even in cold flu height, and we know COVID is not gone. So we're trying to say, plan this, and the great news is when we announce we have a bus today, or we have, then at least there's some flexibility. But that's the plan right now, is to go with that, unless suddenly John has found a dozen drivers. Or if Norton can come through. I mean, Norton is providing for us, but they're also providing for other districts. So to count on them to be part of the lineup, if they can be part of the lineup and we feel good about it, then we won't have to do this. But we're trying to be proactive with parents rather than reacting all the time that there's a problem. We know there's a problem. So being upfront with that. So that's what we've been talking a lot about.
Yeah.
Robbie?
So the major sports in the winter, basketball, wrestling,
Yep. And cheering.
and cheering.
Yeah. Because ice hockey's kind of on their own because it's
So
co-op.
I guess the big one would be boys and girls basketball,
Yes.
as far as numbers go. Now, what about, do we have the ability to rent vans and let coaches drive?
So we do that now with the two
Right.
vans we have. It's
Right.
just up to availability.
Right.
I know John and I spoke about that at the beginning of the year. The issue is finding vans that are able to be
Right.
rented.
Right.
I was told that is it
Stewart.
Stewart's,
Right.
Lewiston, and Bates
Yeah.
already rented
Yeah.
them out, so their fleet's gone. So it would just be a matter of getting vans
Right.
to use.
And we have been doing that with the golf team, and we
Yeah,
have
yeah.
been
I do
doing,
that,
yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
we utilize the vans almost daily to get
Yeah.
the smaller athletic teams to where they need to be.
Yeah.
And maybe we use that as a backup for families who can't get their
Well,
athlete
that's
to
what
a
I'm saying.
competition.
Yeah.
If we have 30 kids on between boys and girls basketball, and we only have to transport 10,
Right.
Yeah.
that can't find a ride.
Yeah. And it wouldn't be a first case scenario to do that. That's exhausting all resources. We're trying to have a backup plan, knowing, like John said, Phil goes to Florida for the winter. He's our big trip driver right
Right.
now. So when he leaves in a couple weeks, what's that leave us for the winter? Hopefully we'll get bus drivers, but if history repeats itself, we're probably not going to at the moment. So we're just trying to be creative now and come up with ideas for the future. So that way we're not caught in a situation where we don't have anything. At least we have some plans that might work out.
In terms of vans, the thing to consider is we're in a region that has a lot of seasonal summer camps that have vans to transport their students. So
Oh.
that might be something that people are not thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good idea. I'm sure John and I can look into that and see.
Or even large daycares.
Yep.
I know the one in Lewiston down by the old racetrack, they have like 3 vans there,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Does he? I know it's a little frustrating driving by Bates College because there's a fleet of like
Oh, yeah,
60 of
there's
them lined
60
up.
of 'em lined
And I want to be like, really? Can we just have 2?
With drivers.
Yeah, with drivers. Like, that would be fantastic. Thank you so much.
Have you reached out to them?
I haven't.
UMA too.
Yeah.
On the fleet, and they have drivers. That might be.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
idea.
that's
We
a
can
great
reach
idea.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So, yeah, we're always looking for ideas and ways, so
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah. Like I said, we're just brainstorming, trying to get ahead of it because we don't want to be caught in the middle of winter and then be canceling stuff or last minute calls because then we don't have transportation.
Right.
So, yeah.
Anything else?
Any other questions?
Thank you, Brian.
Awesome. Thank you.
Up next is Jim Palmer.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay. So it's been a busy start to the adult education school year. We previously, the last couple of years, have not really had a full brochure because of COVID, and we weren't offering the same classes we had. So the first task was to update the brochure, and I've actually want to thank Marco. He's allowed me to put it into the peak of the week. So you can click on the catalog right there. So that's been an addition. And I've also created an adult ed Twitter page for both Oak Hill and Lisbon that people can access. I try to, on Monday, put a new activity that we're offering coming up to see if I can generate some interest there. One of the things that has kept us pretty busy is the substitute teacher training. We've trained 10 new substitutes in the past 10 weeks. Previously, we had a video that we would show substitutes who wanted to be trained, but it hadn't been updated for a while, so I wanted to get the ball rolling, so I've just been doing them personally one-on-one, and to be honest with you, it's provides a lot of energy when you get to talk to them one-on-one. They have some good questions that they may not have asked with a video, so I've enjoyed that piece of it. But the ages have ranged from 55-year-olds down to former Oak Hill students that have come into training. So hopefully that will help out with that issue in our district. The other I didn't put it in a slide, but the other thing that we're looking to do, we're talking about bus drivers. John and I have communicated on doing a CPR first aid class for our bus drivers. It's a hybrid course that they'll do part of it online, and then at the workshop on October 7th, they'll do the skills piece of it. So the other thing that we're looking to do, I've been in communications with Miranda Cook, who offers a bus driving course, and certifies her own drivers. We did that a little bit last year. It's a costly venture, so I'm working right now to try to figure out how we can do that and have it be affordable. So working with Miranda Cook, he's been pretty informational, and in contacting him, he said if we had a couple that we would want trained, he'll keep a couple spots for us for free. So I just learned that the other day, so I'll talk to John to see if he has anybody that might be looking to take that course. Typically what Miranda Cook does is offers a grant, and that's what I'm looking at doing. Is if they take the course, we offer a grant to help pay for it, because it can be up to about $3,000 for somebody to get their bus driving license. So still on the topic of driving, so we have our driver's ed courses going. The first 2 months, September and October, is already full. So some of the upcoming dates are November 7th, December 5th, January 3rd, February 6th, and March 6th. So this has been a huge asset to our program. We get a lot of our own students that do it. We try to offer the classes in between athletic seasons if possible, because that's when a lot of kids are available to do the driving and take the class. So that's been one of the things that we have bumped up from the past prior to COVID. Enrichments, I'm trying to spend a little bit more time on enrichments this semester. So we have yoga for beginners. We have family story times that will be starting up in October. That's parents can bring their children to a story time, and it'll be about an hour worth of stories. They can It'll be a story, and then they'll connect that story with a craft, and then probably some snacks might be involved in that too. So that was pretty successful previously, and I'm hoping we can get people back to do those story times. Pickleball is kind of up and coming, so I figured I would give that a try. We put that out there. We're going to do it prior to winter season because that's when the gym's available, and then hopefully if there's enough interest, we'll look at doing it outside on the tennis courts in the spring. So it's I'm hoping for some interest. Other adult ed programs say that it's pretty popular. So just a couple of the things coming up for enrichment classes. We're going to try to offer a hunter safety class, a defensive driving class that we do through the state, some financial workshops, and learning about your iPad. So I've had a lot of interest with people saying, can you offer a course of how to use my iPad to the best of its ability? So that's one thing I want to offer in October. So
Probably bring in some 7th graders.
Maybe
I'm sure.
Gardeners.
Yeah.
My grandson's available, he's 7.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I try to help my mother on the computer. I call her Happy Clicker because somehow she ends up off the screen all over the place. So, yeah. So, but that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. All right, moving down to 5.5, there's no student rep to report, and there's no other reports, so we'll move down to 6, old business. To approve that the vote entitled Vote to Call and Approve the Warrants for the Corrective Budget Meeting and the Corrective Budget Validation Referendum, and to authorize the notice of amounts adopted be approved in form presented to this meeting, and that a copy of said vote be included with the minutes of this meeting. So there is something that I wanted to read out that Katie had put together.
Can I have a motion first?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry. Sorry.
That's okay.
No, it's all right. You're doing great.
So I would move as read.
Second.
All right, so now I can go ahead and read. Sorry, jumping ahead. So Katie had put this together. You all should have also received it in your packet, but we wanted to make sure to read it aloud, so that was recorded and out there for others to see and hear it. So please vote yes on November 8th, 2022 to correct an error made on the 2022-2023 school budget warrant for the validation referendum approved by voters on June 14th, 2022. On September 28th, the school board will be voting to approve the correction to Article 13, which is where the error occurred when the warrant was created for the budget referendum. In the budget booklet provided for the May 18th, 2022 budget meeting and the June 14th validation referendum for the 3 towns, it stated how much each town would be paying for the additional local dollars, pages 4 and 5, excluding the nutrition program and the adult education, beyond the required local contribution to receive the state funds. Litchfield, $1,442,705. Sabattis, $1,600,008,683. And Wales was $598,137. The total amount was $3,649,525. The total of the 3 towns should have been the amount stated in the Article 13, pages 6 and 7. The wrong number, $1,752,630, was the amount written into the article. It was a mistake. In order to fund the approved 2022-2023 $21,291,591 budget, pages 3 and 4, the additional local allocation needs to be $3,649,525. The tax increases on page 5 of the booklet was based on the $3,649,525. Approving the correction will not change the original expected tax increase. If this mistake is not corrected, this year's school budget needs to be reduced by $1,896,895, and a new budget will need to be approved through another referendum vote, or a loan for the amount needs to be secured and paid back by the 3 communities. So we are asking the communities to please approve the corrected Article 13 on November 8th, 2022. Thank you. Any discussion?
Okay, there was a question asked, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer, and this is the answer I gave. We don't have to do the whole budget. We are only going to vote on Article 13 at the meeting on the 12th.
Correct. The ballot is going to, I have it on here, because you're going to be signing after you approve this. There's a lot of signatures that we'll be doing later, so don't leave at the end. The question is going to read, do you favor approving the corrected amount of the additional local funds component of the Regional School Unit 4 budget for the 2022-2023 school year that was adopted at the corrective RSU budget meeting held October 12th, 2022? So it's only focused on that.
And that's the warrant that
That's
the
gonna-
motion is to approve.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly.
Is there a warrant for the public meeting, the budget meeting?
You're going to be, yes, you're going to be signing that. Jill's going to be signing this.
Okay.
Then you all are going to be signing the validation referendum, because Michelle needs all of this to get to the towns. And then you're going to be signing the budget meeting information. So those are the 3 documents that are going to be signed this evening.
So is the thought that this will go out to families?
So, yes. So, and I will update by saying voted to approve. Okay, that first sentence. So we're working right now on a postcard that's going to have this information, and then the postcard will go out the week before. Yeah.
And that's going to go out to the general public?
Yes, there'll be
Okay.
5,000 postcards.
Okay, great.
And I think if there's a way for people to see the language before they get to the voting
Yeah.
place, that
Mhm.
would be helpful to know what that means.
Okay.
But still, even the way it's worded, it can still be a little confusing.
Okay, so maybe call me and see how we can clarify. Okay.
Any other further discussion? None, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Passes. Thank you. So we will go down to number 7, new business, 7.1, to approve the first reading of the following policies. AC, non-discrimination / equal opportunity and affirmative action.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
This is AC.
Yep.
So it was pretty standard throughout, but my only comment, and I know we got these from somebody, but the difference between discrimination of school employees and discrimination of students, or harassment, discrimination against and harassment of students, seems to lie with genetic information and familial status and age. So for, and that's that is consistent through all the policies. This was the first one I read. And so my comment now is how come we don't have age, familial status, and genetic information under the student section? I don't know, and since it's common through all of them, that's probably the way it is. It just seemed a little strange.
Right, one would be the familial, I always say that wrong, familial, is somebody who has children. So the students would have children necessarily.
Familiar status is somebody, it's not somebody that has children. It is somebody that is in a group or might have some of the same situations. I looked it up today, so I
Okay.
Googled it. It had nothing to do with family. It
Okay.
has nothing to do with having children. It is, I can see Christie's looking it up right now. And I looked at 2 or 3 definitions, and they all read basically the same thing.
I can certainly check on that, Bob, for second reading. For
Yeah,
second reading, I can check on that.
Yeah, it's, you know, age is a little bit,
Right.
they're students, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to discriminate them for age, unless you have a kid that's left behind.
Mhm.
Like,
I can
spent
ask
a couple
why
extra
th-
years in school.
Yeah. I can
So-
ask why.
Well, it might, I don't know.
Yeah,
It
I know.
may- It may
Doesn't hurt,
conflict
I
with statute or something.
I'll double check, and for second reading, I can, if it needs to be
Yeah, 'cause
added, I'll
It's
add.
that way in all the,
Yeah.
in all of them.
Okay,
So
I'll
that
check
was
on
my
it.
only comment on AC.
Well, AC has it. What you're questioning is ACAA doesn't have it.
Oh, ACAA does, AC, yeah,
Yeah,
they all do
I-
except for the
I see
ones-
which one you're talking about,
Right,
yes.
and then we have the one that's specifically for students, and
Yeah.
it's missing it, and it's particularly for staff, and it has it.
Mhm.
So it's, it's a
Yep.
consistent difference. And I know we get these policies from somebody else that's, looked at them, and lawyers and all that jazz, so
I'll check on it.
just wanted to mention it. It just
No,
seems
I'm glad you
strange.
noticed it.
I'm guessing it's because it's under a protected class, that's what it is.
Right. So we'll just double check it.
Anything else?
That's an easy one.
So as no more discussion, then we'll vote that this is the first reading with the things that Katie will look up, sorry.
That's okay.
I was looking at Kathy. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Okay, passes. Next one is ACAA, harassment and sexual harassment of students.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
This one goes along
It's
with
the
the
one,
same
yeah,
thing.
right, this is the one where it's
Student
missing.
specific, so
Yeah.
there's not a conflict within it, but
Yep.
I didn't have a chance to cross-reference, but the JICIA and JICK, those are correct for us.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get through, once these go, we'll double check those, yeah. Exactly.
Any other discussion? Seeing there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? All right. Passes. Next is ACAB, harassment and sexual harassment of school employees.
Second.
Any discussion? Bob?
So this one is only for school employees, but in the first paragraph, it talks about all the same things that's been going on, but this is familial status. Under harassment, in the second section, it does not have that is left out. It just says genetic information or disability and national origin, so that one particular characteristic is not included in the A, harassment, where it is in the lead-in paragraph.
Well, we double check that one. No, but I thought we had done it, so.
Any other further discussion? Seeing there is none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? So passes. Next, it is GCFB, recruiting and hiring of administrative staff.
Second.
And any discussion? Bob?
Yeah, so at the very end, the last part of the sentence talks about, and the relationship of the above to the state's 5-year goal for the employment of women in administrative positions. Now, that had that sentence in it in 2013, which tells me that's 9 years ago. I'm not sure when the 5-year goal started. If that is still an appropriate thing to have in there, because it seems like maybe there's a new 5-year goal. I don't know.
Yes, that's why it was taken out.
It's not taken out.
But, I mean, what we talked about is we have to we have to update we have to look at the affirmative action plan in relation to recruiting. So if that wasn't taken out, then that was my error.
Okay, it's still
Yeah.
in this copy I have
Yeah.
here. All right, that's
When I
fine.
looked at the updated ones, they still had it, so I've got to review, like you said, the sample policies. So we'll look at that again.
Yeah,
There weren't any
oftentimes
changes.
Something gets in somewhere
And
and
it
it's
sits,
hard
yeah.
to get it out. even
And it
though
may
it's-
still be part of the law, so it's staying in there. Because I put it up against the main school management. So if it's still there, then it needs to be there, but I'll double check
Yeah,
that statute.
I doubt a goal is in law.
Right. Well, it references the statute, so I will
Well,
look
yeah.
at that. Yep.
Any further discussion? No? I will call for the vote with Katie looking into that. All those in favor? Passes. 7.2, to approve the following procedural policies. ACAA-R, student discrimination/harassment, and Title IX, sexual harassment complaint procedures.
And just because I'm noting, Michelle had changed the affirmative action is going to be Oak Hill High School. So what she printed, she had changed that Lucille's information will be Oak Hill High School, just so you know. Yeah, we talked that out.
Just spacing, section B, number 1, the ABC, there's no space between A and B like everywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to amend the motion to be a first reading. Instead of just approving tonight on the first go.
Mhm. Yeah, with corrections, yeah.
Okay. So then you're asking
That this would be a first reading,
To-
just as a policy that it's tied to.
to approve the first reading of the following policies.
Right.
Need
And
to-
do that on the second one.
Yeah, we'll correct those things, yeah, sure. Yeah, is that other, that needs to be taken off on page 3 under section 2, needs to be taken out. Yeah.
All right.
Any,
So,
Anything else,
Christie, you
Bob?
talked about on page 2 between A and B?
Yeah, so page 2, section B.
Yeah,
Right.
I had that one. And
Right.
then, so on page 3,
Mhm.
under section 2, then there's this part that's in a bracket,
That has to be taken out,
okay?
I already noted that.
And, let's see, we get down to page 10. On page 10, there is brackets to allow you to pick for
Right, and that's,
business in 2 places.
yep, and we had already made that decision,
It's gonna be business
Yeah.
days like all the other policies.
yeah.
And then, in memory of my English teacher from long ago, why do we have a subparagraph A with no B?
Oh.
If you only have one subparagraph, it gets incorporated within the main paragraph? I think is what she used to tell me all the time.
I'll look to see how it came out.
But, you know, styles have
John-
changed
John-
in the
right,
last
John-
50, 60 years.
We'll look at the sample,
Space.
we'll look at the sample policy to see.
Yeah, I understand, but, I mean, once we sign it, it's the board's policy, so now it reflects
No,
directly on the board.
right.
So we just wanna make sure it's correct.
Yeah. I
All
hear,
right,
what-
that's my
I
comments
hear
on
you.
this one.
any more discussion?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Underneath appeals,
Yes,
is there no appeal process to the board?
correct.
Okay. That just might not be clear to a lot of people in the beginning of this process.
Right,
Mhm.
we had to have a conversation about that.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? I will call for the vote with the corrections and suggestions. All those in favor?
Yeah, it's first
It's just the
reading.
first reading,
Yeah.
yes.
I did.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
It's the
we
first
vote
reading.
on the amendment.
vote on the amendment first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's tough. just direct me in what I'm supposed to say to make sure I'm getting
Say
So
it
the
right.
motion is to approve this policy for first reading
First reading.
with the comments and corrections that were noted.
To approve this, for the first reading of the following procedures and policies with the amendment to the ACAR, Student Discrimination Harassment, Title IX, Sexual Harassment Complaint Procedures.
We're voting, right?
Yeah, we're voting.
Okay.
Okay, so all those in favor? Just want to make sure I said it right.
I know,
Passes.
yeah. It is.
So
It's
now it becomes
nerve-wracking.
the motion,
Now it's a motion.
and you have to go and do it again.
So now it's a motion to approve for the first reading.
Mhm.
Right.
A motion to approve the following procedural policies first reading of the ACAAR, Student Discrimination Harassment, and Title IX, Sexual Harassment Complaint and Procedures. It's a motion.
So moved.
No, it is a motion.
It is a motion, okay, that's what I thought, so,
So now we're actually voting.
now you're actually voting, so all those in favor?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So approved.
Good job.
I'll get there, I promise.
You're doing great.
Doing well.
On the fly.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
On to the next one, ACAB-R, Employee Discrimination, Harassment, and Title IX Sexual Harassment Complaint Procedures.
I would move we do this,
As a
motion
first
for
reading.
first reading.
Yes.
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 Amendment.
No, not as an amendment, just as a
moving it
first
in.
reading.
It's a first reading.
Then we don't have to go through
Have to
the,
go through
Yeah.
amendment. Second. All in favor?
Discussion?
I had something, just, on page 8, it's another one of those. This is the only section where there's more than one paragraph in a section, and the first two aren't separated by a line, but the second and third one are. An extra line feed, old teletype.
Yep.
I also have something, page 2, number 9, familial status, that's gonna tell you what it is under main law, but the font for A and B looks different than the rest of the document.
Yep.
Are we also putting, are we leaving Lucy Rio, or are we putting Oak Hill
Yeah,
High
we're
School
going
at the
to,
top?
okay, yeah.
Okay.
So I had a question on that. Can't we post that someplace in reference where we have it? Because anytime this changes, then you have to redo the whole procedure. So can't you refer
often in the
to the
policy.
title or the affirmative action officer and refer in here to where the information on who that person is located, instead of putting it in the procedure? I think I've seen it that way before in certain things, either for affirmative action or for some other type of specific duty, truancy, absenteeism. So if you don't have to put it in the procedure, when that person changes, you don't have to redo the procedure. Because that would be a
It's-
change to the procedure.
It's supposed to be in the procedure.
Well,
I mean,
Well,
I can ask,
I'm just asking the question, because.
and I would have to ask the question.
Well, if you would, please.
Yep,
Because
I will.
it's much easier not
I
to
think
have
we're going to
to.
be told it's required, but I will double check it.
All right.
I'm not going to say an answer until I double check.
So for clarification, if I understand what you're saying that we should have Oak Hill High School as the affirmative action officer, but then have a way in which further reference to the actual officer be someplace else.
No,
Because
because you
my
don't know if it would be
understanding-
Oak Hill.
Just basically where that.
What he's saying is
information-
every time
Yes.
it changes, you'd have to update this with the current,
Correct,
with
with
the,
the
Right,
current.
so,
which often does
Gotcha.
happen. Yes.
right, so you would put down something like,
Okay.
to contact the affirmative officer, the Title IX coordinator, who is identified here or is located on all the bulletin boards that's required to be in
Right.
every school.
Right.
Where you post that, because I know at the state level, in each of our places, they
Right.
just post on the bulletin board, and our documents reference that the person's name was posted on the bulletin board, so
Yeah.
when it changed, they just updated the poster and not the whole policy.
Right.
The statute actually says we actually have to have the person's name in the policy.
In the
Yeah.
in the policy or the
I'm-
procedure?
I'm just going
In the
to,
policy, not necessarily procedure.
I-
Well, then we don't have it in
I-
the policy.
I'm going to double check it. Right. This is the first reading we can, okay.
Okay.
All good.
Yeah, because I remember we voted about that last year, because we were told it had to be.
Right.
I have a question.
It has had the person's name in there, so we'll just double check it.
Diane?
On page 5, under appeals,
Mhm.
in D, number 1, was A and B supposed to be underneath it, or is it okay to have it like it is?
What page are you on? Okay.
Page 5,
Page 5.
where it says D appeals,
It should-
because you have a colon there, and then you have A and B. Should that be underneath?
So we'll, double check that.
It's just a formatting thing.
It's a formatting, yep.
Anything else? All right, no further discussion. I'll call for the vote as first reading. All those in favor?
Wait a second.
Nope.
Sorry. Page 7. 3 and 4, same stylistic stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna have her go over all the format.
That would be great.
So when this packet goes out the next time, if there's any formatting before we get to because it'll be the second reading, just email me. Just say, I mean, I'll try to double check it too, but sometimes I think it's been communicated and I didn't, I apologize. I should have reread them once they went in. I thought they had been corrected. So if you just note something and then sometimes we just miss little things or big things and.
I didn't read them until today, so.
That's okay. Oh, I don't, it's first reading, it's fine. It's second reading, that would be the problem. Right. So, no, it's not too late.
So, any further discussion?
Page 10 and 11, I'm sorry, A, B, C, D, E, the font
Yeah.
is different.
Yeah.
I saw that.
That's it.
No, it's okay, we're gonna go through them all, don't worry about it.
Anything else? Any further discussion? None, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to number 8, committee reports. Finance and Facilities Committee.
Yep. I was elected finance facility chair.
Thank you for stepping forward.
And he was so excited about it.
Are we voluntold?
I got here late. That's why. Lacey got here early, and I got it. So anyway, Jonathan touched on a lot of stuff with the facilities, so I'll go into the financial piece and a little bit of more facilities. So far in the budget, we've spent 16.19%, and we have 83.81% left. So everything is where it should be for 2 months of school. So we're doing good. At the meeting, we discussed the ADA safety scope of work that we have at central office. It was drainage on the front to get rid of the standing water that leaches into the building, and also ADA accessibility to our doors. And that's going to be remedied in the next few months, Jonathan?
I hope in the next few weeks.
Yeah, next few weeks. Okay, great. And then under new business, we appointed a chair, which was I. We talked about our contract with Freedom Energy, which is a solar company. And what we do is we get credits for buying into the grid. And we're looking at anywhere from a 10 to 15% per year savings on our electric bill. And that's district-wide. So that, that should be pretty decent for us. And I guess we don't really know where the solar farm is, but Katie's gonna find out that we're tied on to get the savings.
Then we can
from.
visit it if we
And we can visit it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Field trip.
Yeah, and The finance committee has also talked about the cost sharing discussion, and we're still looking into the funding formula recipes, and we'll be giving a report on November 9th to the whole board on that. So stay tuned, there'll be a lot of good discussion there. Oak Hill Sports Fields, we are having problems with the new softball field, and we are getting somebody, actually a field engineer, to take a look at it and see what we can do to remedy the problems that we have there, so we can continue that project moving forward. So stay tuned, there'll be more to come on that too. And we had discussion tonight, a preliminary discussion about capital improvement funds for equipment, or, so we have to get some legal counsel on that before we can really get back to the board on how that gets to be set up. But basically what it is you designate a fund that we would put money into every year that we could draw from, but the community has to vote to allow us to draw from it in order for us to expend the funds. But they also have to vote for us to put the money in a fund at it would be at our budget meeting, at our regular meeting in May or June. In May, sometimes June.
Sometimes.
Sometimes July.
Sometimes July.
And again.
Sometimes August. Yeah.
Exactly,
And,
don't jinx it.
That was it. So, anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer, try to.
Little phase 3 update.
Oh, yes, a little phase
But he
3.
went through most
But
of that.
yeah, that's what I said. Jonathan went through most of that during his presentation, which was nice to see the pictures and the work being done. And yeah, we were a little bit behind at the start, Jonathan, but we're catching up.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's my report.
All right, next, personnel and policy will be October 12th. Next is CAI and Technology Committee.
Yay. This is my favorite. So we had a lengthy conversation about the most recent updates of NWEA testing. The testing windows for this year open this next week for students. And the students 3rd through 8th grade, and now the state of Maine is saying, yes, we're doing NWEA. We're going to continue to do as planned the fall testing window and the winter testing window. And then the state of Maine is going to add their 2 cents in for the spring testing and make the last 2/3 of the testing be normed for 10th graders this year. In the past and forever and ever, we have always had 3rd year high school students, most often juniors, have to go through extensive testing between AP exams, SATs, all the things. They're now shifting it down to 10th graders, recognizing that the testing load on the juniors was a bit much. But one of the reasons in the bigger picture of things that we said why we agreed to do Power School in particular was to be able to streamline all the data and information that NWEAs feed directly into the system so that it's as close to real-time updates on students and their progress, and will allow teachers to be able to teach specifically to what each student needs based upon this data information. We're getting more information, right, Kathy, about the state involvement in all of this. And so more coming with that. But as we know right now, testing starts next week. The fall and winter windows are going to be exactly as we are used to with NWEAs. The spring, stay tuned. The other important pieces, we were asked to look at what we would like for specific sort of information or focus for October and December. And we gave Kathy some ideas about perhaps having we had a very large class of new teachers come in and new administrators. And to be able to have Jack Carney, who runs the mentoring program, and have the instructional coaches and perhaps one or two of the new teachers, have them all come and speak with us to let us know how things are going, what sort of supports they may need, and then potentially in the springtime, April-ish, invite them all back in to talk with us to kind of say, okay, you've been doing this with us for a little bit. What's some feedback for us that we can take back to the board to be able to help you do your best work with our kids? And then there was conversation about trying to get information just in a very general sense of what's up, the sneak peeks for grades, and like whether it be per month, per quarter, per semester, that sort of information is going to be going back out to people because parents would like to potentially have more information in going into Google Classroom, and as Power School is getting booted up for students and parent portal as well. And that's it. Questions? Rob?
With the with this, and Kathy too, maybe she can help with this, with the state changing from 11 to 10, all that data that we've been collecting, it seems like, and Bob would agree, every 3 or 4 years, Bob?
Without fail, every administration we've
Without-
had since
Right.
without
25
fail.
years.
Right.
So
Exactly.
consequently, I
Yeah.
would hope, Kathy, are we keeping that testing information in-house so we can get the reports on how our students are growing, like the last few reports that we have gotten?
Yes, so with Power School, we'll be able to, we've had all our longitudinal data entered into that performance matter portion of the Power School. As Jen alluded to, that this year will become a baseline for us. So the fall and winter will be actually a MAP growth test. However, the state is moving to a through test in the spring. So we will not be able to compare fall, winter to spring growth.
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
I know.
That
Yep.
was my response.
So we're coming up with creative ways and other ways around that to figure out what we can do. So that's why it's stay tuned. So we won't be able to report to the board our regular reports that we've done in the past, like we did with STAR, for this year. Going forward, next year we'll be able to do that. So this year is kind of a baseline data, and it's a moving target because we have different assessments this year.
Okay, but are we still going to be able to see our individual student growth from fall, winter, spring?
We will be able to see in some of our assessments, because we do other assessments besides NWA, that we'll be able to show student growth. However, we are trying to figure out, we will be able to show growth from fall to winter, and we're trying to find a creative way to be able to do that for spring. With the MEA assessment as it's written right now, we won't be able to do a fall to spring growth. But stay tuned, because I have a creative way.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, yes. Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. All right, number 9, board member comments.
I guess I'll just jump in after kind of learning this new information about assessments. I want to say thank you to our teachers and administrators. You guys go above and beyond. Like, I know that you're going to have to deal with all of these things in real time as they shift, and we appreciate you. So, hold on, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of in that same vein. I mean, years ago, I had workbooks where I was tracking each class and every year the grades they were getting based upon, and I mean, it's still on my computer. And then all of a sudden, the state stopped those tests. We couldn't get the results, you know, and then they started another one. And I don't think there's been 4 years any 4 years in a row that hasn't changed, even when administrations have lasted for 8, you
Right.
know, or the Department of Education might have been for 12, you know.
Right.
They change, and my philosophy is they change so that it makes it harder for us to track the progress and to do the comparison. So it was probably the one reason, or one of the main reasons, why I thought that norms testing, where you were statistically compared to all the other students in like grades as a whole, was beneficial, because the test affected everybody, and if you were norm tested, you could see how your class was doing compared to similar classes in the, you know, throughout the state or throughout the country, and you could see how they had progressed, and we could see how we progressed. You know, I mean, we've been through all kinds of things. We've been through color codes. We've been
yeah.
through all of it. And Diane knows it's always a change. You never put too much stock into the current system, because it's going to change. It's just inevitable. It's going to change. So we do our best, and we try and somehow manage the effectiveness of the programs that we offer our students, and be able to justify to the residents and the taxpayers our programs that we're offering and the way we're delivering them.
Anyone else? I'd like to give a big shout out to Brian for including the rec programs into homecoming. You saw it in the faces there, but I was on the field. I was with the kiddos, and the littlest ones were so excited to go onto that field that they still talk to about it at practice today. So I want to thank you for kind of starting to make us feel like a community, and doing that. That 100% made us feel all included, and I applaud you for that. And you looked like you were running with a chicken with a head cut off on Saturday. So I hope you got a chance to enjoy some of what you had put together. So thank you for that. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll echo that. My second grader was like, Mom, I got to high five a real life high school kid.
I mean, then they came up, when the football players came off the field, no matter how tired they were, those kids lined the outside of that field, and they all got high fives, from the coaches to the players. I think they felt like they were in a celebrity circle at that point. So it was really, really nice to see. Anyone else? No? With that being said, then, without any objection, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
Okay, nobody move.
Can't leave.
Yeah, sign.
We are adjourning the meeting, but we
Okay,
can't leave.
so here are the signing rules. We're going to start over at 5.